What's up everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about Karens, insane people, and all that kind of stuff. And as usual, we got some more Reddit posts to check out today, so feel free to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments and we're getting right into it. Take my clothes out of the dryer? Have fun walking home in your underwear. This happened about 15 years ago in Jackson, Mississippi. My then girlfriend and I were living in an apartment complex on the outskirts of Jackson. We didn't have a washer or dryer in the apartment yet, so we had to use the community coin-operated units attached to the leasing office and pool. One night after I had returned home from work, I wanted to get some laundry done so I could just relax the next day. So I took my laundry basket across the parking lot, ran them through the wash cycle, then came back from my unit to put them in the dryer. When I got back to my unit again, I realized a stray wet sock had stuck to the side of the basket, so I had to run back over to throw it in. When I got to the dryer, which was the only one in use at that point, I found my clothes had been removed from the dryer, tossed into the dryer below it, and a few shirts, jeans, and socks in its place. They smelled like chlorine, so I had a pretty good idea what happened here. To confirm, I snuck around the back and spied 3 late teen/early 20s swimming in their underwear. It was mid-August, so I figured they had jumped in with their sweaty clothes on, then found a paid-for dryer running and decided to save the $1 and screw me over instead. I was pretty mad about what I found, so I switched the clothes back, and was about to put their wet clothes in the lower dryer again before I had a better idea. I took their clothes, walked over to the large garbage can, and tossed their clothes under the garbage bag between the liner and the inside of the garbage can. Then I waited the last 25 minutes and took my clothes back as quickly as I could. I guess I wasn't quick enough, because I heard some panicked voices calling after me when I was almost back inside my apartment. "Hey, excuse me, wait." I locked the door behind me, but a few seconds after there was loud knocking on my door. I opened the door and before me stood a dripping wet young woman and 2 equally wet young men. They immediately accused me of stealing their clothes. I simply said, "Well, no, these are mine. I had the only dryer in use at the time, the top one to the far left." I knew they wouldn't come out and say they stole my dryer, so I just kept staring at them, then asked if there was anything else they needed. They tried to say I must have been mistaken and taken their clothes also, so I pulled my laundry basket out and shifted some clothes around and said, "Nope, they're all mine." They were forced to give it up and walk back to wherever they came from in their underwear. The worst part is that it had been a hot and rainy summer up to that point, so the mosquitoes were out in full force. I'm sure that was an itchy walk home. My boyfriend of 3 years stealthily took my 11-year-old dog to a vet 80 kilometers away to be put to sleep. It was only a luck I found out and got him back. Boyfriend doesn't know I have my dog back, but he comes back tomorrow night. My boyfriend Jay left for a trip up the coast to help family on Friday morning. While I was at work Friday, I got a phone call from one of my ex-flatmates, Bob, who I lived with at uni. He thought he had my dog with him, and phoned me because someone had dropped him off to the vet surgery he worked at to be put to sleep. Bob sent me pics, and it was my Stixie. I'd recognize him anywhere. I grew up with him, and he was so close to me when I left home to study there were no questions about it. Stixie stayed with me. Bob kept Stixie with him, and I drove to pick him up as soon as I was out of work. Bob also showed me a phone recording he took of the vet's security camera screen. And there's no doubt in the world it's Jay dropping him off. He's even wearing the same clothes he left in this morning before I went to work. Jay has texted me a few times today and I don't know why, but I'm not confronting him about this. I'm actually scared I will utterly lose it at him. I'm running everything through my head on why he'd do this. We talked sometimes about moving north to be near his family, or overseas within a few years. I can't believe I'm trying to find reasons for him to do what he did, or reasons for me to not rip him a new one and dump everything he owns out on the front lawn and set fire to it tonight. I'm half numb and half stunned beyond rational thought. Why can't I get functionally angry here? He texted me this morning like he normally does when he's away. I replied like normal, though we're not big text talkers anyway. He asked me a couple of times if I was okay. Everything in the text I'm trying to read into what the hell he thinks he's hiding. Edit and a quick update. A night's sleep with good people around me helped. I phoned a workmate to see if I could go stay there with Stixie, and she came over here for the night instead. We spoke, and we have a plan. Thank you for the links to New South Wales laws. It looks like I might be in the clear with forcing my ex out. I am the renter. I am the only name on the lease, and we had no written agreement. From my understanding, he is a boarder or lodger and can be removed quickly. I'll have to clarify, of course, but that gives me confidence. I was freaking out because I didn't know where to start last night. My ex will be confronted with more people I know in the house backing me up. Stixie is also in good health. He's 11 and a bit too fat and slower than he used to be, but he's fine. Update 2. He came back. He lied. I was upset and looked it. We gave him enough rope to make excuse after changing excuse. First, he was shocked Stixie was gone and would help look for him. Then he was shocked someone took him to a vet to be put down. Then when confronted with proof it was him, he claimed Stixie was hit by a car and he had to end his suffering. When confronted with a live, happy Stixie, he turned it around and it ended with him telling me he should have had me put down. My coworker and her partner and I told him he was not welcome in the house anymore, and that they were moving in with me. And everyone in the house and the neighbor we both get on well with who saw him return on Friday to take Stixie now knows what kind of person he was. He left of his own accord and took some of his stuff. I am no closer to knowing for sure why he tried what he did. Landlord opened credit cards in my name and stole my identity to fix the house I rent. I now owe $10,000 and he said he's going to file an eviction on me if I tell the police. I've been renting from a private landlord for the last 18 months at a decent rate, but the house definitely needed repairs. Back in February, several of the repairs were made, which were a long time coming, but I was alright with it finally getting done. My plan is to buy a house in January, unless I get the job I just applied for in a different city where I'd rent for a year before buying. 2 weeks ago, I received a letter in the mail saying I owed a credit card company nearly $6,000. Since I believed it was fraudulent, I disputed the collection notice in writing well within the 30 days it said I had. Yesterday, I get a call from a different collection agency looking to collect on a credit card debt of almost $4,000. I told them it wasn't mine, and they provided me with a little bit of information about the account. It looks like the address on it is my landlord's. This morning, I was able to get a statement from the credit card company, and it looks like it was opened near the end of January, and all of the charges are basically at either Lowe's or fast food places throughout February. I am working on getting the other statement, but I suspect they'll show the same thing. When I checked my credit, neither one of them ever showed as having a payment on them. Both addresses show as his address. It's obvious to me he opened credit cards in my name, probably using info for my rental application, and charged everything to my name to fix the house that he owns. I called him and explained that he needs to pay off the cards, and that I'm going to file an identity theft report. He admitted he opened the cards in my name, but that I was benefiting from it, house repairs, so I couldn't file a police report. When I told him I absolutely can, he said he'd just started 30-day eviction process. I can't have an eviction on my record. I wouldn't be able to get a mortgage for years and would probably not be able to rent again for at least 3 to 4 years. I feel like I'm stuck at this point. When I tried to say something to him over text, he just didn't respond. It's like he knows not to put anything in writing. When I spoke with a lawyer friend about it, he said the identity theft is a criminal issue, but the eviction is a civil issue and he could probably go through with it. Update. It's been kind of a wild ride the past few months, but it ended up working out for me. When I made the police report and disputed through the credit agencies, both accounts ended up going away. I haven't heard anything else from the collection agency either. By November, my credit score was up to 780. The landlord did exactly what he threatened to do and filed for an eviction. I was told after a couple of weeks by the police that the county was pressing charges for identity theft, as long as I still wanted to go with it. Of course I did. I also learned he has another identity theft case on him from pretty much the same time. My eviction hearing came and went. He didn't show up and I explained the identity theft case. The judge threw out the eviction. I ended up buying a house in January and moved out from that POS landlord's place. The reason I'm updating today is that I got a call from the prosecutor's office. He got arrested on the identity theft charge and had a new court date last month. Between his arrest and the last court date, he got arrested again for pounding off, IASIP term, outside of a school. He then got arrested again last week for urinating inside of Walmart, like in an aisle, not the bathroom. The person from the prosecutor's office says it looks like he's gone off the deep end, and they are going to push for a mental health treatment and a long term of probation if I was alright with it. If he gets into any other trouble on probation, he would probably be sentenced at least to a state mental health facility, if not jail. I said I was fine with that, and they said they'd update me if they needed anything else. If the mental health treatment sticks, I'd say great, but I feel like maybe it's just a ruse to get out of having to take responsibility for what he did. You want me to provide a good reason for why I want to use my vacation days? Time to trauma dump. So I work in a pretty low-stress job, which makes it absolutely hilarious that my boss demands that whenever we take our paid time off, we, quote, give a good reason. Like, dude, why do I need to give you a good reason to take my vacation days? They're mine. I'm entitled to take them to dedicate the time to my new hobby of staring at the ceiling. It ain't none of your business. Well, I had planned to take a few days off to recharge after a very relatively intense work week. Unfortunately, the boss thought this was a great time to send out a reminder email that if we intend to take time off, we need to provide a reason and have it approved. This was a mistake on his part. I went into his office, head hanging low, and started talking about my dad's cancer, how intensive chemotherapy was. I didn't make myself cry, but I was putting that theater class I took in college to good use. I might have even hit him with. And I'm just so used to seeing my dad as the strong and vulnerable guy, but he's just human, you know? And soon he might be gone. How do you even deal with something like that? Now, by this point, my dad had been cancer-free for years, so this was purely performative. But my boss just looked so uncomfortable, it was great. I wish I could say this caused the boss to send out an email saying we no longer needed to give a reason for our time off, but no such luck. Instead, I just kept coming up with other traumatic life experiences to justify my vacations. I think my grandma died 3 times these past few years. Poor woman. I may have to come up with something new for when she actually does die. My boss still gets visibly uncomfortable whenever I come to ask for time off in person instead of via email. It's kind of hilarious to me. Anyway, friends, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching. As always, I do appreciate it. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already for more Reddit content like this, and drop a comment down below. So take care, stay tuned for more, and I'll see you next time.